You're listening to the Cinema Snarks podcast. I'm Larry,
And I'm Ren.
and today we are going to tell you how we really feel about Scream 6 and the Scream franchise.
Mhm.
So, we both went together to go watch Scream 6 in the theaters just this past weekend. Kind of become a new little somewhat of an annual tradition. We saw Scream 5 together last year, now
It's an
Scream
annual
6,
tradition if they make a new one every year.
as they
It
have the
seems
last 2 years.
possible.
I'm pretty sure they're pushing forth with the Scream 7 as quickly as they possibly can after, this last one just broke all the records for the Scream franchise at the box office. And you know what? As a 90s baby, I'm all for it. I adore the Scream franchise. If you are watching, not just listening, you will see that I have like my own mini Ghostface shrine going on right now,
That's a
surrounded by
lot.
ghost face, and I'm rocking a Scream shirt. So
I don't think I quite realized you were that into
the
Scream.
Scream franchise,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting because this is like our franchise. Like if you grew up in the 90s, basically the slasher had more or less died off. Like it was huge in the 80s,
Hmm.
80s babies obviously had Halloween as a holdover from the 70s. We had Texas Chainsaw was big. Obviously Jason came up at the late 70s, and then Nightmare on Elm Street happened all in the 80s. So during the 80s we had the real big franchises, and then they just kind of died. As those ones got played out a little bit, the formula got tired, it died. And through the early 90s, we went through a little bit of a drought. We had, stuff like Silence of the Lambs, maybe Candyman or
Started moving
Hellraiser.
into the true crime horror
Yeah,
genre.
they
Yeah.
they tried to get a little bit more mystical with it. And then we got Scream, which generally kind of changed the game for slashers in general. Not only did it revive the slasher after it had went away, it really brought this new format for the slasher. It was really meta. It poked fun at what all of those old slashers did, the formula that they all did, while still kind of following that formula. But it kind of made what I love most about like satires is when you make fun of something while still making a really good variation of that.
Version
And
of
that's
that. Yeah.
that's what Scream did. It was really smart about talking about the slashers while still making a really good slasher film. The
And then the
radio silence.
2020s rolled around, and we were like, yeah, we can remake anything. We don't need directors.
Yeah, we were like, whoa, did you see how big that new Halloween was? They brought back Jamie Lee Curtis again, and hey, it did huge numbers.
The
We can do
legacy
that.
characters.
Yeah, you just got to bring back the legacy characters. So they went and they rounded up good old Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox and David Arquette. Said, "Come on back, come. We're gonna make another Scream movie," and successfully relaunched the franchise. And
And then
here
they
we
did
are.
Candyman too. There,
They did
it's part
Candyman.
of little bit of I don't want to call it a renaissance because it's a new thing. The requel
Yeah, the
is a
requel.
new concept, I think.
And I think that's what I mean. We'll talk about it when once we get to that film, but it's kind of what made the 2022 film Scream slash Scream 5 work is because they had a
Yeah.
whole decade and a completely new slasher trend
Mhm.
to fuel it. Is this idea of the requel was
Yeah.
now the basis of Scream 5.
Scream is also the perfect movie for a requel because it is already inherently this self-referential piece of horror canon almost.
Yeah.
It's like a horror movie textbook a little bit. And yeah, basically a requel that self-referential sort of being aware of the prequel of the not the I guess they're not prequels, like they're the originals. Being aware of the original, it makes sense because of the original sort of concept of Scream.
Do you have any affinity toward any certain slasher brand? Is there one that like you gravitate towards more than the
No, I
others?
mean, I like Scream. I think Scream is the only one that I've seen every single one. To be fair, Scream is also probably one of the smallest number of
Yeah, there's
movies.
only six.
I think so. Honestly, for me, it's like just a little bit daunting that these horror movies have so many. And I know that you don't have to watch every single one of the like 12 Friday the 13th. So yeah, so Scream is definitely my like my favorite one. So for the reference, I know Larry knows this. Because I did a show over the course of the pandemic. It was called Murder at the Drive-In. And it was basically like a send up, sort of a spoof of the horror film genre. The idea was that people would come to a drive in so they could stay safe in their cars. And the people that work at the drive in are doing a bad horror movie night. And they accidentally show this cursed film that ends up bringing all of the scary creatures from films of past to life that come and terrorize everyone in their cars. So basically I kind of pulled a Scream and took like all of these different tropes and things from all of these different horror movies and put them into this performance and ended up doing a lot of research. And at the very least, I've now seen like the first 2 second or third of all of the like classic franchises, right? Like I've definitely seen the first 2 to 3 Nightmare on Elm Street, the first 2 to 3 Halloweens. I've actually seen the first 4 Halloweens, I think.
What Halloween does that Scream didn't do is they pretended everything after the first one never existed. So the
Just fully retcon.
2018 was a retcon. It erased all of the other Halloweens except the original and said we're now the direct sequel to the original. So you don't really need to watch the other ones to
To
jump
know,
onto the
okay. Yeah, I know you
2018
told
one.
me that. I know. I need to see it. I'll make a note. The
But
problem is now I have this like young baby in the house. So
no.
it's not just it's like I used to be able to like, oh, Patrick's working, and so I'll just watch a horror movie, but like I can't. I mean, she doesn't understand it, but I do think that I'd rather not damage her little impressionable psyche with the sounds of a horror movie. It's just
Screams and
yeah. Although
blood
I'm often
curdle.
reminded of the fact that Larry's favorite movie as a child was Poltergeist, right? You used
Yeah.
to just watch that over and over and
Yep.
over again, and you turned out mostly fine.
Mostly okay. Debatable, but mostly. Next up, I mean, I feel like Scream has to go to space because that's the next staple of these
Scream in
franchises.
space.
Ghost faced in
I don't think we're
space.
gonna do that, Larry. I feel like you gotta
Um,
get pretty far into a
oh yeah.
franchise before you. I mean, I feel like with this requel thing, they've essentially restarted, so they've only really
Yeah.
made two. I feel like you gotta get really, really deep into the number of movies before you jump the shark into space. Right, like I was really trying to like cram as many of the like originals in. I'd missed them all, Larry. It
Yeah.
was just like a thing I hadn't like tuned into. But Scream was one like it was impossible to miss, right?
Yeah.
Like all those other horror movies, they all came out. The originals all came out in like the 70s,
70s
so
and early
and or 80s. So
80s.
I
Yeah.
just like they were old, and my parents weren't into horror, so they never rented anything like that. So I saw Scream because I remember my older brother had a Scream poster on his
Yeah.
wall, which is weird because my brother's not like a horror person, but I remember distinctly he had a big Scream poster on his wall, and it was on TV all the time. That's probably the only reason I've seen the second and third ones before I like rewatched them like a couple years ago, because they were just on cable all the time.
And you were like, you're an 80s baby, but you
I'm an
grew
80s,
up
but yeah,
in
so
the
by the
90s.
time, yeah, so by the 90s, yeah. I was like, I couldn't technically go see them in the movie theater, but like none of my relatives were gonna like stop me from watching it on cable. I mean, I was like 14, 13,
Yeah.
14. I was like old enough. And the screams are actually relatively like they don't
Yeah.
have boobs. They're just violence, really. There's a
There's
little bit
no
of
nudity.
swearing, and but there's the sex is limited and pretty tame, and it's a lot more focused on like stabby and the whodunit of it all.
As I say,
Which
even up until this one, more or less, they're not that gory either.
no.
not compared to like Texas Chainsaw
Yeah.
or some of these others that get really gory.
Yeah.
This isn't that gory. It
Yeah.
doesn't it plays on the tropes of like the ditzy blonde, particularly the first one.
Mhm.
Plays on like the stupid girl like type of tropes that horror played in, but again, they don't get naked in the Scream movies or any of that. So yeah, they are
Yeah, you
pretty.
don't have to explicitly see them do any of that stuff
No.
because you already know what all the tropes are.
Yes,
So
you
it's
already
easy
got
to
it.
follow. Also, they have this nifty little character who explains everything to
Always.
you,
You always have
which
the little
I
horror
imagine that
person.
there are some snobs out there that hate that as a
Yeah.
concept and as a trope and might like call it lazy screenwriting. But personally, I love having a film nerd inside of my film. That's fun. It's a pretty common thing to have a narrator that kind of like guides
Yeah.
you along, especially if there's that's the nice thing with Scream is because the slasher there was this big gap between the slasher like
Yeah.
epic in time and when Scream came out you do kind of as a 90s baby need a little bit of a primer in the movie
Yeah.
to be like so this is how it works and this is how it goes and like a horror head would have already known that but and all us 90s and 80s babies would have been like I don't know what it's just scary screamy stabby.
But I don't know if you agree with this. I say that Scream, even though it's only six, is probably the only long running horror franchise that, in my book, doesn't have a bad entry. I think they are all good. They're all solid. They
I mean,
all are fun. They
none of
maybe
them
they're not
are
perfect.
like legendarily bad.
Yeah,
That
none of
none of
them are
them are
terrible.
like you're not going to see a Mystery Science Theater 3000 version of any of the Scream films, right?
Like they don't dip to the low again. None of them are Jason Takes
No,
Manhattan.
but like I said, they don't have that many of them. It seems like you got to get pretty deep into it
I don't know.
before.
I mean, again, Halloween 3 has its defenders. I hate Season of the Witch. I
I
also
love
hate
that
Halloween
one, but
4
I love Season of the Witch because it is terrible.
and
It's
weird.
one of those so terrible it's good sort of movies. It's like
I
so absurd and it's so over the top. It's camp. It is Halloween to me. It actually it makes me a little bit sad that they didn't go with the original sort of concept for Halloween, which was that it was like it's supposed to be a scary story that
Yeah.
took place on Halloween every year, which was the same concept that Friday the 13th was supposed to have was a scary story that happened on Friday the 13th. And then they did, this is, we complain all the time right now about this, like we're in this era of the remake and the
Yeah.
sequel but they absolutely had this
Oh,
picked in horror for like a decade of they couldn't do anything except the same thing over and over and over
oh
and
yeah.
over again.
I would
So
say almost most of the franchises fall off like by 2 or 3. Like most of the
yeah,
horror. Like
there's a few shiners, like right, like so. I think with Halloween, the third one is like ridiculous, but then
yeah.
the fourth one bring it back. Yeah,
And then soon enough we have Busta Rhymes. So, it gets fun in the
poor
90s.
Buster Rhymes.
Um and then
May he rest in peace. Right?
Friday the 13th. The first two are solid because the first one is the mom, and then the second one is when we get Jason coming out, and then the third one is just trash. Like then it just falls off.
Yeah,
Um
that's it.
Nightmare on Elm Street is literally the first one and then straight off the cliff. Like
Straight off the cliff.
I
Although,
live for the second one because it is gay
yeah,
camp madness.
yeah.
But
Highly recommend if anybody is a horror person, Scream Queen, the documentary.
yes.
Really, really interesting to learn all about. It's really interesting to see these directors still pretending like they didn't
Gaslighting this poor
know
man,
that
trying
this
to
poor
gaslight
fucking
him.
adult man who's like, you knew what you were doing. And they're like, we had no idea. It was just him at a nightclub. I'm sorry, what? That's clearly a gay
I
club.
didn't write he screams like that into the screenplay.
Oh
Oh,
my God. There
no,
was,
they still to this day try to gaslight this man
and you
into
know what?
believing they didn't do it on purpose.
That's shitty, but the bigger shittiness of it is that like that poor guy got shit all over because heaven forbid we have a gay icon
A
in
final
our horror
boy
films
in our
that early.
movies. Yeah, like I but then even Nightmare 3, it comes back a little bit. Again, it kind of like Halloween, it tries to come back a little bit. It's okay. Nightmare 3 is okay, and then it just
Which is why decades later they were like requels. We're just no, we're not gonna
requels.
try and fix it. We're just nixing it and starting over.
But I think Scream, I enjoy all six of them. Partially because I'm just like a Scream fan. I love this franchise. I think it's great. I love Sydney Prescott. She's my favorite final girl, even though maybe she's not the most iconic, because that's always going to be Laurie, because
Yeah,
she has it. It's Laurie
kind of
Strode.
the original.
The OG, yeah.
Yeah.
She's not really the OG. There was one or two before her, but she's like the original icon that
Yeah.
became the final girl, you know. But Sydney was just, I don't know, she just hit different for me.
Well, because you get a lot more of her in the following movies where she gets to like
Yeah.
develop as a character, which you don't get as
Yeah.
much with they kind of stay final girl status always. They're still right, even if they escape. And a lot of times they escape and they get killed at the beginning of the next movie. So
You know, yeah, we've had a lot more time with Sydney. We've had 5 movies with Sydney at this point, up until this one. So it's always a fun time. But the one movie that doesn't have the horror expert, I'll say, is my least favorite. Because all of the Scream movies have a horror expert at some point in their midst, including the new ones. The only one that doesn't, and this will be my number 6, the worst Scream movie is Scream 3. Randy is dead. He gets killed in the second one, and we don't have a stand in for him. They're on the set of Stab, like the new Stab movie, which is fun. It's like a fun setting to be on a movie
yeah,
set
it's
for your
like
Scream
meta,
film.
right?
Yeah, it's super meta. We have
For
Gail
a
with that
meta
horrible
series.
haircut.
Yeah.
It's iconic now, but those horrible bangs on Gail Weathers are so messy. So messy. But we have like the actress Dewey's like kind of pseudo dating this actress who plays Gail Weathers in the movie, and he's like has a fling with her. But first of all, the opening sequence is one of the least iconic, and that's one of Scream's big things. Like outside of the meta-ness, it's the opening. That's like the next thing Scream as a franchise is really known for. Is the before we get the title sequence, it's a big kill. Which was cemented in the first one, obviously. And this one,
The first one that's one of my favorite like takeouts of all time. Drew Barrymore. I remember that fucking poster on my brother's wall. Drew
big
Barrymore is huge. She was
front and
clearly marketed as the star of this film, and they kill her within the first what 10 minutes max.
yeah,
I don't even think it was 10 minutes.
gone. She is out.
Gone.
She is basically a glorified cameo in the first Scream film.
But damn
And
if she is not the biggest, most ridiculously large person on that
but in
poster.
but also she's like forever like this horror icon because her death is this iconic death in the
Yeah.
first Scream film. Like it's this
What's your
iconic
favorite scary
opening.
movie, right? That's always
Yeah.
going to be a thing.
Everybody knows the look. If you put on the blonde bob and that white like little sweater and the jeans, you know it's Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Yep.
And I think Scream 3 has maybe the weakest opening. So we kill Cotton Weary, who has been around in the first 2 Scream films. He's a lot more prevalent in the second one, obviously. Framed for Sydney's mother's death. Sydney frames him, and him and his girlfriend get killed in the opening of Scream. And it's okay. I think the voice changer gets a little bit ridiculous in Scream 3 as well. Suddenly the voice changer, he's literally just sounding like everyone and anyone. He could just imitate all of the characters in the movie. He could just imitate through this little voice changer. They never used that before and they never use it again. So it's just like this weird
It's just
Scream
like
3 only
technology that
device.
doesn't exist. It's
Yeah.
just like magic movie technology.
And then I think the reveal is also one of the weakest because it's just like so like it's Sydney's half brother. So we learned that Sydney's half brother orchestrated the first movie's stuff too, and like got into Billy Loomis's ear to like turn him to like try to do the killings of Scream 1. So it kind of like, in a way, it waters down the killers of the first Scream movie by setting up this whole plot with her brother who had been plotting her demise because Sydney took his mom from him.
I feel like do feel like when they write these movies, they don't do any amount of like actual research on like family dynamics
You
and
know,
how that can affect mental states.
he's off the deep end. Like this half brother is just insane. He's one of my least favorite ghost faces
Oh,
in
but
general.
I love him. He's so wonderfully over the top.
He's very campy. I mean, this is pure camp. Like the whole reveal and him. Plus, it's kind of fun to have a director be the killer. Like he literally is
Yeah.
the stab director
Yeah.
who lures Sydney in to
I
kill her.
think Larry, I think for me, so we're doing like the rankings,
Yeah.
but I think like the core
So you have
difference
Scream
here,
3 at 5.
I have Scream 3 at 5 because I think what for me it is that one of the things that I love so much about the Scream movies is that who done it aspect of them
Yeah.
is that like they're also a mystery. That's not the case in any of the other slasher
Yeah.
films that this is referencing. Like it's always just like inexplicable evil. You know, sometimes they'll like be like, it's your brother. And it's like really irrelevant. Like it's not important that
Yeah.
you know who's behind the mask. That's kind
No.
of like the intent behind of the filmmaker. But these were the first ones that were like, no, this part of the fun of this
Yeah.
of these movies is it's the whodunit of it. And I thought even though you think it's stupid and waters it down, at least that one made sense. Whereas the explanation for Scream 6 makes no fucking sense by the end. It's a garbage solution to the mystery of the whole. It's like the worst possible of the like, could be this person, could be this. So like Agatha Christie, when she would famously say that when she was writing her mysteries, that she didn't know who was the killer until the very end when she was writing it. So as she was putting it together, it could be anybody. And I feel like the same thing happened here is that they were like, could be this person, could be this person. And then they got to the ending and they picked the stupidest reason, the stupidest key person solution to the whole thing. I'm not gonna like blow
Yeah, because
do the
this one is new,
spoilers.
so we won't say who it is on this one. But
Yes, we'll leave it open, but it's stupid. So that'll give you a clue as to how dumb it is. So I think that's really why for me, I think even though I agree that Scream 3 is not certainly not one of the best ones. It at least has an ending that, although a little silly, at least makes sense that he's the killer
Mhm.
and ties it all up and like gives you reasoning and it's like consistent. And I guess like in Scream 6, the killer, the kind of the theme is consistent, I guess. But doesn't make any sense. It's super dumb. Real dumb. It's like it tried to take the killers from other screams and give them the same motivation, but it didn't actually work in the context of the rest of the plot that they'd written. And I also think I was just like, I think it doesn't help that I have Scream 5 ranked number 2, way up there. And it really brought down everything interesting that they were doing with Scream 5. They like didn't expand upon or make any better or like grow in Scream 6. And so I just felt really disappointed. Whereas like I don't think I had like great expectations for Scream 3, so that like there's no letdown. It's not like there's a bunch of like shit that happened in the why didn't they cover this other thing that they teased in the earlier films, right? Like
No.
the screams are all pretty solidly, they stand on their own, which I
Yeah.
also appreciate is that you don't have to have a sequel to any of the Scream films.
Mhm.
They all can just end on their own. And the Scream 5 and the Scream 6 have very clearly had a little bit more of like, there's something happening, but then they're not
Yeah.
fucking doing anything with it, which is very frustrating for me. So yes, I'm very big on story, and the story on this one just Was it good?
Yeah. Most of the things. So when it comes to killer and the killer reveal, probably, I might give the edge to Scream 3. But pretty much everything else I look for in a fun Scream film, I just think Scream 6 is better. So,
Hmm.
like, the opening is much better in Scream
The
6.
opening for Scream 6
Is
is killer.
amazing.
Love it.
Actually, it's like
Great.
probably my second favorite opening behind the first one. Like, it's
Yeah.
really good. And that's them doing something different that they hadn't done that worked. They do
Also,
something completely different.
love that they had Samara Weaving, is
Samara
it?
Weaving.
Samara Weaving,
Yeah.
who's her own little scream queen. Everybody
Yeah.
in the comments, tell Larry he needs to watch the babysitter, and babysitter Killer Queen. Both of them are excellent, and so she's the main protagonist in there. She was also in Ready or Not, so
Yes.
she feels
We love
like
her.
she feels like a significant choice. Like it feels
Yeah.
like they picked her specifically because she does have some like horror comedy cred already going straight into
Yeah.
it. Do
But
they
it's
kill anybody in the beginning of Scream 5? Or did they just go straight
Scream
into
5. I know.
Jenna
I'm like, oh,
Ortega's
shoot. I
character?
think it is. It's Jenna Ortega. You're right. She's the opening kill, but she doesn't die. So, yeah. So Scream 5 doesn't have an opening kill. It's an opening fake out kill. It's an awesome sequence. It's actually,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's a
it's
strong
yeah.
opening, but it's just not in line necessarily with the rest of them in that sense.
Hmm.
But further than that, I also just think it has really cool set pieces. Like it has a lot more memorable horror set pieces than something like Scream 3. Like we have the whole bit on the subway train that I think is really fun.
That was very
Um,
fun. Yeah, they have. So
yeah.
I was thinking while I was watching it, I'm a little bummed this movie didn't come out for Halloween because it's set at
Yeah.
Halloween and it's like a perfect Halloween film.
It is set on Halloween.
It's
I
set
don't
on Halloween, and
understand.
it actually makes it for an incredible thing because they've already got this reality setup of the movies that everybody inside the movie knows
Yeah.
about. So Ghostface is this mass produced mask in the world, and so there's people that are just there's tons of
Yeah.
people wearing ghost face masks just walking around on Halloween, and that's such a fun thing to
Yeah.
play with because it's a I haven't seen that in a horror movie before, and it's a fun.
And it's also a fun, like, commentary as well, because it's like these people are so desensitized, like, especially after last year when everybody ran out to buy Jeffrey Dahmer stuff. Like, because of the Netflix series, they wanted to look like Jeffrey Dahmer for Halloween. And it's kind of a fun commentary of like, there's literally a serial killer who kills people wearing this costume, and people just like run to the store to grab it and throw it on and be it for Halloween because it's cool.
I think it's because it's edgy and people love. So I think so many people were pissed off about that Jeffrey Dahmer film, and like my personal opinion is people like true crime. If you're not
Yeah.
glorifying the killer, then you're telling the story, and as long as you're treating the victims with compassion.
Yeah.
Anyways, I actually didn't watch that one because I don't really want to watch Jeffrey Dahmer on screen. He's just like that's fine. Like that's sort of like fuck. It's like gross. That is a gross, real disturbing of like all the disturbing stories. Jeffrey Dahmer's is real disturbing. It's like extra disturbing. But I
And
did watch that
that's what we do.
incredibly loud, wicked woo, incredibly wicked, and
Oh, the
basically
Zac Efron one.
the Ted Bundy one.
Yeah.
And that one I liked because it made a creative artistic choice and people hated it because they're like they're making him look sexy and Zac Efron's trying to. I'm like, yeah, that's the whole fucking point. Is the movie is supposed to be from the perspective of these women who fell in love with him, so you can try to follow along with them as they are slowly learning and realizing this man is maybe a fucking serial.
Yeah.
Oh, he's too adorable and charming. Yeah, that's what's fun and interesting. Anyways,
But yeah, I think that it's kind of a
yes, it's a thing
fun
that people
take
do
on
for
it. Yeah,
Halloween.
it's a fun take on it of like how desensitized as a culture we get to where we like to
I
dress up
will
like a
say,
literal serial killer.
I will say, it's never that well costumed around Halloween. Like the movie did a really good job, but like It starts the weekend, presumably like before Halloween, because it takes place over a couple of days.
Yeah,
But like it's the weekend before Halloween, and everybody on the
everyone,
street
the
is
whole
wearing a
subway,
costume. And that is
literally.
absolutely not how
No.
Halloween
And
goes
they're all
anywhere
great.
in the
Like
country.
they show like Pinhead, and that Pinhead looks
That
amazing.
was a
Like it could have
really high
came,
quality costume. Yes. I mean,
you
I'll
know.
take it, whatever. I'll suspend my
Oh
disbelief for
yeah,
you to
we'll have
build me.
fun.
I wish that's what Halloween was
Me
like.
too.
I would love if everyone gave as much to Halloween as I do, but it's
I
not
will say,
actually how it works.
yeah, Scream 6, the big downfall for me. So it has the fun set pieces. It's really, this is probably the most brutal Ghostface has ever been. Like when he does kill, that's part of the problem. When he does get a kill in, it's really brutal. And we get a lot more blood this time around than I think we ever get in any of the rest. However, there's not enough kills. There's a lot of
Yeah,
almost kills in this movie, but
there's
not
not
a whole lot of.
nearly enough. Well,
I feel like
that's what
this is a low. If we were to calculate just Ghostface, so let's not count the Ghostface themselves who always die. So they're exempt. The Ghostface killers are exempt, but the people that Ghostface directly kills, I think Scream
there's
6 has
only
one of the lowest body counts of any of the Scream movies.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And the ones he does kill are like random people in the bodega. You know, like
yeah.
it's like he gets a kill in here and there at the bodega
Which
or
so I don't think I'm like spoiling anything by saying this, but they literally have a whole monologue. They have the little like film nerd who talks about does the little
Mhm.
explanatory exposition explanation of how this is going to go as a movie in a franchise and is very clear about who is susceptible to being murdered, and it's everybody, and
Yeah.
it should be they're going to be bigger and nobody's safe and everybody who's important is at risk, and they literally say these really high stakes about what's going to happen, and then they don't fucking deliver at all. It's
Yeah.
like there's and like it felt a little bit like when they brought Superman back from the dead. If there's no stakes, if people can't if characters don't actually fucking die in my horror film, why am I watching this? There's
Yeah,
no
I think
horror
that's it.
involved. And I
Yeah,
mean, to
that's
be
that's the
fair,
thing.
stabbing, you got to stab a person in a specific spot and a lot of times. So, like, of all of the methods of a horror movie killer, stabbing might be the most inefficient. I would buy survival rates on stabbing a
Huh.
lot more, but more than like a machete that's
But
going
then when you
straight
get
through. But
stabbed about 15 to 20 times,
yes,
how are we surviving? We don't know. Superpowers. But like watching back when you watch through the Scream movies, it's so funny because they are pretty inconsistent on like the damage a stab does. Because some people will die just like one single stab in like
yeah,
here and they're done, dead. But
to
then
the
other
belly.
people get stabbed, like Dewey in Scream 2 gets stabbed several times in the back. He's fine. I mean, he lives. In this film, we have it in Scream 5. Several characters get beat the hell up, like with stabs. They're fine. And so the ghost face killers we've come to expect, like you have to shoot them in the head. Like we've established that trope. It's another horror trope. So they play on it of like, no matter what you do, you got to make sure to get them in the head and really make sure that they're dead. But the normal people, it seems like you also got to shoot them in the head or they're not going to die.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, all
but
of a sudden all of the victims are super powered too.
they're Michael
That's not a
Myers
trope.
incarnate. Yeah, no, that's not the trope in horror. But I definitely agree with you on that one. I just think that there's more to like for me in Scream 6 than there is in Scream 5 by and large. So I can
There's
overlook the story problems.
there's too many frustrating things. Too many frustrating things. My other big gripe with Scream 6 is that Scream 5 sets up this really interesting sort of Dexter vibe of she's the daughter of a murderer and she's got these murder desires, little rumblings inside of her, and then they don't fucking do anything with it. They talk about it again, but they just again they don't like move forward. And so it's a really interesting thing that they set up in Scream 5 that could have actually turned this into a new movie, something that is different from the last 4 franchise films. And instead they just followed the same fucking formula and didn't do anything interesting at all, really.
So Scream 7, if you just talk about it again, Ren will like probably her head will combust. Like if it doesn't progress one way or another,
in there, in
she
the
will
movie
literally
theater. Jesus.
She'll turn into Ghostface. She'll leave the theater on a murderous rampage as Ghostface herself. So
I would never do it at the movie theater. The screenwriters are the ones who need to be stab faced.
yeah, no, she'll find Hollywood. She'll make her way to Hollywood before turning to Ghostface.
No, I'm just going to sit them down and yell at them for a while. What are you doing?
She won't turn into Ghostface. She'll turn into Karen. So be ready. Even scarier, she'll be Karen.
It's like they didn't hand it to anyone to look at it even once and say, what could you do to improve this? What is missing from the, it's like the first draft of a shitty script. And that's disappointing. Like it's sort of like I thought I'm at least Scream 5. Scream 5 got me into the movie theater, but if this would have been my experience with the reboot, I would have been out. I absolutely would have not gone. I would not go to see. I mean, I might give the next one a chance, especially now because I'm a fucking completionist, and now I'm gonna have to go see the other stupid fucking movies.
And I'll probably be like, "Hey, Ren,
I know.
Hey, Ren, we gonna go to the movie theater."
But now I'm mad about it.
But now she'll just be mad entering. This time she was like hyped. She was like excited because of Scream 5.
I thought it'd be fun. I'm a mother now. I haven't seen a horror movie in a movie theater in a while.
Since Scream. No, maybe Candyman. I don't remember which one came out last, but I'm
actually pretty sure it's the Scream. It was a Scream or Candyman would have been the last.
It was one of the two. One of the requels. Yeah. But I do love that they reference like Candyman and how both Candyman and the requel are great. So
yes.
Like, no, they're both good.
Candyman, the original or the requel? Both.
Yeah. Perfect. Both, and that's the correct answer.
Correct.
We agree with you two ladies.
Agreed.
But all right. So I think that'll be our longest discussion because we wanted to talk to you about Scream 6, some of our frustrations, some of the things we loved. Also, I'm glad Gail, isn't it weird? It was weird to have that revelation that Gail never like spoke to Ghostface on the phone until Scream 6. This is the first time she ever spoke with him. I actually love her chase sequence as well. I think it's great. I love that she puts him on hold. Please hold. And like has a great moment there too. But I thought her chase is like one of my favorites in the entire franchise now. I don't know. I loved it.
I mean, I do. I also love that she has a gun. Like, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying she has a gun. That's the sort of thing you're like, why wouldn't why didn't Sydney always have a fucking gun? After the first movie, if I'm anti-gun, I'd have a fucking gun. Yeah. If I had a person actively, specifically trying to murder me, and then this movie comes out, I would absolutely have a gun around. And that's one of those things in like horror movies that they're always defenseless, even when they should absolutely know better. Yeah. So I appreciate that Gail knew better and had a fucking gun in her house.
She was ready. She was ready to go. Had the gun. It's still locked up. Still gun safety.
Yes, absolutely.
She ran to that room and got the gun once time was ready.
Yes. Good old Gail Weathers.
Good old Gail Weathers. We love it. All right. Now we are actually on the same page all the rest of the way. So we have slight differences with number 6 and number 5. Ren, what do we have at number 4?
Scream 4, actually.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we both really loved the twist. That I think Emma Roberts is very fun generally as a horror actress. She does a really good job. And it's just such a fun like outcome. I don't think I saw it coming, which I think is always really exciting to me because I always see the twist coming, and that was really fun. And just like her reasoning is super fun. I'm like, I deserve to be the final girl.
I've
Such a
lived in
like
your shadow long enough, Sydney. Move
bitchy girl
over.
thing to do.
Yes. And I
I think
love
that's the main reason why it like just catapults past the other two that have all these problems. It's not like superior in any way. It's but it absolutely it that's really what it is. It's the reveal at the end that just clinches it for me.
and they do a good job of throwing you off her track. Like they do code her as a final girl. Like she's kind of supposed to be that movie Sydney. So they do a really good job of convincing you.
She's been doing it her she's been doing it the whole time. Fucking devious. And that's fun too, right? It turns that final girl trope on its head
Yeah.
by having her manipulating specifically to become the final girl.
Yeah, and this is the movie where we get, Dewey and Gail together. The only time that they're like legitimately together is this damn fourth movie. um, but we have like the midnight screening of Stab with like all these young kids. Now our people are a little bit older, so they are definitely like the parent group to these like high school kids. um and we see Sydney like writing a book about her experience. And it's a fun meta commentary on the idea of fame too, like of that fame culture with our killer reveal here. And it's another throwback to the first one when she just like offs her partner and doesn't give a fuck. Like she's
Yeah.
used this little boy and she knew all along. Like he's literally here to serve my purpose. And once my purpose is met, you're dead. Like it's over for you, boy. Again, another good callback to the first one with the dual killer reveal. I think I did like Hayden Panettiere's Kirby. I think a lot of us did in this film, particularly, and that's why finally she was brought back for six.
Yeah, Scream Six.
She's a fun little horror person in this movie. Like she's the like I know my horror films in this film, and she's fun in this one.
Sorry,
With
just
the killer.
that also just reminded me of another stupid fucking plot hole in Scream Six. I'm just gonna say, when people are trying to throw you off of the scent, it doesn't make any sense when you only give us information that's just for the audience that isn't for like everyone else. The purpose is to throw people off of the scent. If the audience is the only one that sees it, it doesn't make any sense in your world because what is the fucking point of the character throwing people off the scent? Stupid as fuck. Oh my god. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I'm so upset about it.
Clearly, very clearly.
I am. The more it's La La Land all over again, where the more I think about it, the more I get mad about it. And I'm like, oh.
How did you
I
feel
don't
about
think
this
there's anything
opening,
in
Rim?
movies that upset me more than just like piles of plot holes because they writers hours of hours of people's time that went into this thing, and you couldn't get your shit together enough to copy, to proof it, to have a few revisions, to workshop it with some people to make sure it like made sense. I'm not some genius over here just tracking down all the plot holes that nobody else is going to notice. I'm probably the person who's most upset about the plot holes. So. Maybe that part is a problem.
I think so, for sure.
Anyways, back to
how did
Kirby.
you feel about the Scream 4 opening? So where they're watching Stab and a kill happens, and then it's Anna Paquin, and it's also a opening to the next Stab film within a Stab, like within Scream 4. So it's
the
like
meta within the meta within the meta.
within the meta
fun.
within the meta. Was the opening here.
I think it's the right call for. I do appreciate the way the Scream franchise knows what it is and doesn't really fall off that track, right? Like, yeah. Absolutely. We just had a whole conversation. A lot of the other ones kind of like forget what the shit is going on in their own world, their whole purpose for existing. Sometimes they get a little too fixated on like one piece of the puzzle that they are insistent needs to be in every single movie. But anyways, no, I think that to me is taking the entire concept of Scream, the meta horror film thing, just to its umpteenth iteration in the process.
Well then, At number 3, we have Scream 2, the
Mhm.
OG sequel starring the amazing Laurie Metcalf, who gets
Yes.
to be a killer,
Mhm.
who
And
gets to
the
be crazy.
adorably sexy Timothy Oliphant.
Also gets to be crazy,
Also
totally
gets
unhinged. Yeah, Scream 2 was just kind of like it does play on the a lot of tropes of the sequels of
Mhm.
other horror films, and
Mhm.
that's what makes it not a bad sequel. Like it's
Yeah.
actually a really fun,
Yeah.
funny sequel. We have her in college now. Sydney is out to college, and lo and behold, the ghost faced kills follow her to college. We have the scent of Cotton Weary again, who gets released out of jail and is like stalking her to like force her to clear his name so he can live a normal life. And that's like one of our de facto, could it be them? I don't know. Killers in this. They also do a good job of not really letting on that Mrs. Loomis, the twist that this weird little awkward reporter who's like fangirling over Gail the whole movie and trying to one up her is actually the killer's mom from the first movie. She's been in disguise as some weird little podunk reporter. I mean, it's also kind of ludicrous, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about Scream 2, Ren?
I love it. It's the same reasons. I love Laurie Metcalf. I love the reveal. Again, and like for me, it really always comes down to like that reveal. Who did it all make sense? Does it all tie up? Is it a good mystery? And Scream 2's got one of the best mysteries. When it turns out who it is, not only does it make sense, it also fits into that meta
Yeah.
horror film trope. I mean, like, right. So the mother is the killer
Mhm.
in the
Friday this.
original
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, but
Over her
it's
son.
it totally makes sense to just like flip it on its head. And it also starts this thing in Scream where like all the killers are always related to someone. It's all a big family drama. So I do wish, like, I don't blame this film for that, but I do wish maybe they could get off of that fucking record player because
It's like a soap opera a little bit. Everybody's related to somebody. Yeah, it's like an
a
ongoing soap
telenovela
opera.
over here.
Probably why I love it so much. It's
Where
a
the hell are
telenovela.
my evil twins then?
Ooh, a
That's what
Scream
I need.
7?
Do
Um,
they kill Jada Pinkett Smith in Scream?
yes. So Scream 2, the opening is Jada Pinkett Smith's death in the
Right,
movie
right,
theater.
right, right.
And again, another commentary about like the sensationalism of it all is she literally gets murdered in a movie theater that's showing Stab, but people are like cheering, like because they I don't know, they think it's some bit and they like love the
Yeah,
carnage of it all as she literally gets murdered before
she
their
dies in
eyes.
front of them. Yes,
Yeah, and it's like
and
a
that's
great
that's
moment.
fun, right? That's fun commentary on the
Mhm.
culture
Yeah.
of horror fans, and I think that's another thing that Scream does after the first one is really lean into what the fuck is wrong with us? Like, why do we watch these things? Why do we don't just watch
Yeah.
horror movies, Larry. We like obsess and fangirl and fanboy and fan person over them.
It's
People
true.
have like that's like their identity. There are people who
Yeah.
are like a horror freak and that is
Mhm.
like their identity. And why? It's crazy. And that's so Scream kind of plays with that. And I do think that Scream is it's all heightened, right?
Yeah,
Everything
of
is like a
course.
heightened version. So
Yeah.
I don't think in real life, if people saw
Oh,
a
yeah.
person dying at a screening of Scream, they would go, woo! Like there would absolutely be somebody who's like, oh my god, that person is like actually dying.
It's kind of like, I mean, thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of what they did in the menu as well. When he just like kills that guy kills himself in front of everyone, and they're like, oh no, it's part of the performance art.
no
Like,
avant-garde.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like that same concept of
I
like
think it's more right. That ends up being more of a commentary on like
high art.
what is
Yeah.
this barrier between performance and reality, and
Yeah.
how do we look at it, and how it's the othering
Yeah.
of the performance of the story versus our real life. And right, that's a whole question with Scream too, is right, Sydney is this thing that actually happened to her, and then people that are obsessed with the story of what
Yeah.
happened to her instead of her reality. And so that's all
And
very, very fun.
and
And
this also
Scream
this
sort of
is
brings
the
all that to
movie.
life.
Yeah,
But I
this is
was
the
gonna say,
movie that oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I was just, the reason I was double checking on Jada Pinkett Smith is I was wondering if that was an intentional, the only black person in the film gets killed trope, or that was accidental. I don't know.
And she's the first person. She's the first. Well, her boyfriend, who's also black, is the
Right,
first kill, and then
right,
her.
right,
The two black people get killed immediately. There is a black, her friend, her sorority sister, who's like trying to pledge the sorority with Sydney, is
okay,
black as well. So there's another black person in the
okay,
film.
okay, okay, okay.
But the first kills of the movie are the black couple. So it also led to Scary Movie. With my favorite scene in any of those Scary Movies is the movie theater scene where she's like filming and has like her chicken and yelling at the movie screen in Scary Movie. I just think it's so hilarious. I think that's Scary Movie 2 as well. But
I will say, I feel like Scary Movie is a direct, like, I'm pretty sure Scary Movie wouldn't exist if not for Scream, right? The
oh
first
yeah,
Scary
no.
Movie specifically was like
Was
a
Scream.
parody of Scream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a straight parody of Scream. And they stick with the Scream idea for at least the first few. Well, this movie also sparked a debate that obviously continues on and makes fun of the debate of, the whole scary movies influence murderers, like
Oh,
media
yes.
influences people to kill. And they really lean into it in this one, and they continue it in the third one as well. But they make fun
Yeah.
of that whole argument in
Which
this
is,
film.
yeah, it's ridiculous. And it is
Yeah.
also, it makes a lot of sense, like culturally, because it's right around the same time. I don't think there's as much of a conversation about whether or not scary movies
Yeah.
influence people
It
to
was a
kill,
video
but there was
games.
the
Yeah.
video game thing that was
And that's
huge my
directly what they're,
entire
yeah,
childhood.
referencing it hard in this second Scream movie as
Yeah.
well. And a really fun kind of way that they play with it in this movie too.
Yeah.
Plus, our horror expert gets killed in broad daylight. So they do away with the nighttime killings right out in public. He gets snatched up and murdered.
Stop, 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 stop.
Just because, he talked bad about her son. So she said, I couldn't hold it. I had to kill him right there. He spoke ill of my son. Oh, and we get more character development with Sydney. I forgot, because they have the Jerry O'Connell boyfriend who's a little bit suspect. So they really play with like her trust issues, because her boyfriend turned into the killer in the first one.
Correct.
And he dies.
Yes, tried
Oh,
to kill her literally right after the first time she had
yeah,
sex.
and he dies almost naked, like just in his little boxer shorts, like tied up to this stupid star. Timothy Oliphant kills him. Poor Jerry O'Connell.
Poor Jerry.
All right, Ren, what's number 2 on our lists?
Scream 5. We both really love that requel,
Yeah,
man.
it's great.
I think yeah, it was just really fun and it was really fresh. And it almost impossibly took a movie that was meta about horror movies and then was like one more layer on top of it without it becoming ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just fun. The killers were like, weren't it wasn't like a huge surprise who
yeah.
they were, but at least it made sense. It is very funny that like I don't think they do this in any of Wes Craven's screams, but like this one, they like say who the killer is a bunch of times. They're very clear. He's the killer. They keep pointing to him. They're like, he's the most suspicious person here.
Dewey literally solves the mystery immediately.
Doing
And
it immediately.
immediately, and then so does what's her name, is pretty much like the love interest.
Yeah, I think
And
it's is Ned Campbell's character does the same thing.
yeah, they're all, yeah, Nev Campbell is also like the boyfriend,
Yeah.
like all of them. And I
Which
think
is
it's,
actually kind of like a fun
yeah, it's
little
fun.
like turn. Yeah. So it's not a great who done it, but I think it did such a good job of honoring the original franchise while doing something new and fun and fresh with it. That felt really cool. And I just love I am 100% sure at some point this requel concept is going to get like just driven into
Oh, yeah.
terribleness that like inevitably. But so far, there's been a few of these requels that are like really good.
Mhm.
They took take a it's there's something about you have these people that love these
Yeah.
films making movies
Mhm.
about them instead of a director who's just trying to get his fucking foot in the door and a production
Yeah.
company that's like, that movie made a bunch of money. We need someone else to make another one that's just like it. You want to do it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's clear that there's these people who have like passion and love for what made Candyman incredible, what made Scream
Yeah.
incredible, and then like crafted a thing that is a loving homage that is still a good movie on its own.
Yeah, I feel
So,
like that's really what Scream/Scream 5 does so well is it pays homage to Wes Craven, and
mhm.
obviously you can tell they admired him a lot, and they loved the Scream series and had a passion to bring it back in some sort of meaningful way, and I think they accomplished that really well. It's a lot of fun. The kills are fun in this one as well. And I love the added commentary of like toxic fandoms because
Yeah,
it was again, once again,
it's
Scream
contemporary.
is skewering the current topic of the time and toxic fandoms going ham. And I love that they turn out to be the killers because we ruined their franchise from their childhood. So they wanted to regain the franchise that they once loved from the horrible people.
And that's a fun
Yeah.
reveal. That like that's what's fun about it. It's not who it is, it's their reasoning behind it
Yeah.
is what's fun and feels very appropriate and right for
Yeah.
the franchise, for Scream. And again, something that was missed in Scream 6, where they didn't seem to fucking understand the whole point of what the fuck they're supposed to be doing, and just murdered a bunch
Also,
of people but didn't really follow their own rules, and then just kind of like picked a person who they thought should be the killer because reasons.
well, I also love the reveal of Amber when she reveals to the group that she's the killer because it's just such this iconic moment. Like you have this girl crying and it's like, I'm not the effing killer. And she just turns and says, I know, and shoots her in the head. And is like, welcome to Act Three. Oh, it's like such a
Yeah,
great just
yeah,
scream reveal. Like it's
yeah,
so good. I also love this. Like I know she's not in it a whole lot, but I do love particularly our legacy characters. I think they're used really
yeah.
well here. Like Sydney, Gail gets her please hold moment in 6, but Sydney gets her like, I'm tired. Like she's talking to him on the phone, he's like monologuing, and she's just like, I'm tired, and like hangs up the phone and puts it down. It's like, yes, yes, girl. And she's coming through the house like shooting doors too before she goes through. So you see like, or that moment they have when she runs out the girl and she's like, I'm hurt, I'm hurt. And they look at each other and they're like, no. And they start shooting at her. Like those moments are like fun ways to kind of like show these.
The
Plus, I just,
growth of these characters that have
yeah,
like learned from their experiences now. They're like, nah, this is
yeah.
this movie. We're not falling for
No,
this shit
girl,
again.
please.
Which
And
I
David,
love, right? That's again, it turns the trope on its head a little bit because,
yeah.
right, for whatever reason, the characters just do the same stupid shit over and
Yeah.
over again.
And David Arquette gets a lot of love in this one. Dewey, obviously, it's his
Yes.
last movie, and they pay great respect to him as a character while giving him a good send off.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, Melissa Barrera's character, Sam, the main character of this film, has this really interesting thing that really
Yeah.
differentiates her from any other final girl, this like daughter of a killer. And they go in with it with Billy, her father, like being the ghost over her shoulder, egging her on, and it ends up helping her, like he does guide her to like
He's a weird
live
little ghost angel thing, murder
to
angel.
murder her murderers. But we get that little sadistic edge to her where
Yeah,
she,
which I loved is another reason that I
yeah,
loved Scream 5 is that's such a promising, interesting
yeah,
new concept to like drive forward in that
never
world,
really been done.
which is why I'm deeply disappointed that they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah,
They like mention it. They just really don't. And like, she basically spends the whole Scream 5. I mean, I guess she probably figures out the truth like halfway through the
yeah,
movie. And so then like half of the movie she's like coming to grips with this. The whole point in Scream 5 is that she's come to grips with it. She's like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm the son of a killer, and you know what? If you want to fuck with me, I'm gonna fucking kill you, right? Like I'm the daughter of a killer. Um, which it feels like
Yeah.
it's a little empowering and like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, bitch, like fuck these little shit murderers. They're always a little shit murderer, right? Like that's the thing with Scream is the murderer is always a whiny bitch. Like their reasoning is always the whiniest, bitchiest,
Mhm.
shittiest reasons, right? Which
Yeah.
is another thing I love about Scream is that like they're never righteous killers. So there's something nice about
Yeah.
having like the
And
final
they're
girl
always like,
actually gets to be a righteous killer in some
yeah.
ways. But then yeah, they don't do anything with it in Scream 6. Like she again spends the whole movie kind of like thinking about it and
Suppressing
it's
it,
like
kind of. Yeah.
yeah, and then
You're
does
like,
it again, not until the end of the movie does she like embrace it. And I'm like, should have had her embrace it at the fucking beginning. And then like, right, like, you know, it would have been fun. That should have been the first, like, I was hoping that was what happened. I was hoping that that was her,
opening kill.
that, oh,
Yeah.
she's embraced it. She's killing killers. She's fucking shit up. And now we have to, oh, there's some other ghost face. Great. Like it
Yeah.
becomes a totally new, fun film. Um,
But they
Missed
did not go
opportunity.
with it. Mm,
Well, you know what? Also, it just makes me worry that they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
that the
That
scream.
like it just makes me feel like it's like Lost or like Game of Thrones syndrome
Oh,
where it's like
they just start aimlessly wandering to an
they
ending.
start throwing shit at you that they're like this would be interesting. I'm like okay, yeah, it's very interesting. Go on. Oh,
Oh,
I don't actually know where I'm going with
oh,
this. I
no, no,
just thought it'd be a
no.
good idea.
Oh, okay, so we don't know who our characters are. Oh, okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You don't have a plan in place. You're just great. Yeah. Great.
Well, then, if it wasn't obvious when you clicked on to this podcast, if you didn't already kind of know, because it is what it is. Our number one, Scream.
Original, the
The OG,
OG,
the original
obviously.
Scream. It's
What kind
tough
of
to
horror
beat it.
film fans do you think we would be if we didn't
Come
like the
on.
original the best?
Well, because I mean, obviously it lays the groundwork for all of these films to do what they do because it does them all. It does all of
And it
this
was
so
a
well.
revelation at the time. It was completely new. It was doing something totally different. Again, it was the first one that really leaned into the whodunit aspect of
Yeah.
it, which is such a great thing, right? True crime was not as big a thing in the 90s. I mean,
Mhm.
it's always been a thing. It's not new. I think people
But
like
not
to bring their
mainstream.
little
It wasn't like the
flex their little
mainstream like it
pearls.
is today.
I don't know. It's always been. It goes through waves. There were these big true crime like pulp like magazines that came out in like the 40s. Like true crime. There's a reason that
The
Bonnie and
fascination.
Clyde were a whole fucking thing. Like anyways, true crime has always been a thing, but I do feel like they ended up kind of merging that desire for the true crime answer. Like that's what's interesting about true crime for me. I hate those unsolved ones. Those ones really stress me out. But the ones that have like a conclusion, like a solve, like oh, the detectives found this guy and he did this thing and this is his reasoning and this is how he did all of it. It's like oh yeah, that like so it's like a real life detective story.
You
I think
see,
that
I'm the horror movie fan. Ren, see, I don't get into like true crime and real killers. I don't delve into all that shit. That's Ren. So you can make a choice on
as
which one is a
a
little
woman of a
crazier.
certain age, I am absolutely within my demographic rights to be excited about true crime. Although I will say that my interest in true crime waned quite a bit around the pandemic, and it had everything to do with the fact that I was like, I'm good on the absolute depths of humanity's capabilities because this sucks. I would like something happy, please. Thanks. To get like a little bit more into it, but I'm honestly right now I'm like deep into I like true crime. I'm really interested in true crime where nobody like dies. I really love these stories of these like crazy the Sam Bankman Fried, the like that guy who did the fire festival. Like, I am fascinated by the con men stories right now. Like that is just wow. oh, so you just lie to rich people until they give you all their money. Incredible. Rich people aren't smarter than anyone. It's actually
But
kind of inspiring. I think that's what I like about them. They're actually weirdly inspiring because they're like, if this fucking idiot can get millions of dollars, I could do that. And I know what I'm doing.
but back to
Scream
Scream, I
brought in the
suppose.
whodunit, which was great
Yes.
because there's been in my generation, absolutely, there's like a resurgence in the interest in true crime, and I think that might be, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
part of it, but it's absolutely a piece of what makes the movies engaging in a
And
way
it
that
really just it shaped pretty much the modern slasher. Like we have kind of stuck with like
but like
Scream
what's
as the
a modern
model.
slasher?
Yeah,
Do they do other slashers? I feel like
Yeah.
Scream is the only modern slasher.
Well, I mean they've tried.
I mean,
I
except for
mean,
the ones they just like remade. Those don't count. Those are just
no, but
old
like even I Know
slashers
What
they
You
keep
Did Last
remaking.
Summer,
Oh
like
yes. Oh yes.
Urban Legend. There was a right after Scream, there was an
Okay, okay.
abundance of like kind of
Final
copycat.
Destination was a
And
thing.
listen, I love I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't care. I will defend I Know What You Did. I love it.
I love I you don't have to defend it to me. I love that movie too.
Okay, good.
I actually, again, going back to this is my generation. I read all those fucking Lois
Yeah.
Lowry books. I was all about those little YA thrillers of the time.
Yeah. But this was like the birth before really before the torture porn took over with Saw. Like before that,
Yes,
that was
yes,
the
that's
new
right.
wave
The 2000s.
of 2000s was all about how gory and absolutely vile can we get with the kill. But no, Scream was smart. It was funny. It
Yeah.
wasn't like too quote unquote scary because it was just
Yeah.
entertaining. Like it was a lot of fun
I
all
I
the way
think
through.
it really helps. I will say it absolutely helped rebirth like the horror comedy.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
definitely aided in that. The characters were all great. Again, we were following the virgin who breaks the trope, loses her virginity to the freaking killer,
yeah,
but lives. She doesn't die in the end because
yeah,
she had sex. Um,
yep.
and she's a resourceful final girl. Obviously, she's like this innocent girl, but is still has this like resourcefulness to her. We play her against the Courtney Cox character, who's just a bitch, but you still kind of like really like her. Like she is like this horrible woman.
What was that incredible line in the most recent one? It was like, "Oh, you're not the main character. You're not the
Yeah.
victim. What are you? The brains and the sex appeal."
Duh.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Hello. And then we have Dewey. I love this stupid cop, this stupid, goofy, like adorable cop in the movie. And then, the sexy boyfriend turns out to be the killer. Like Skeet Ulrich looking his best in his prime back in the day. This,
Whatever happened to that poor guy?
well, now he's a ghost over Sam's
He's a
shoulder.
ghost. It's weird. It's weird. I will say, I don't know what they're doing. I think they tried to do some sort of like, they have him in the movies, like they have
Yes.
the real actor.
Yeah, they have
They're
but
clearly trying to do some
kinda,
sort of de-aging technology, but their de-aging technology
it's
is
not.
not working for them.
Yeah, they need to
They
get
need to
Disney to help.
spring for the like good quality shit Disney has got.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's he's in another show too. I forget. He's on some popular show right now, actually, too. It's like
Oh, good for him.
is it Yellowstone? It might be the one of those that I don't watch. So one of those ones. But also Matthew Lillard is so good in the
I
original Scream.
love
He
Matthew
is so
Lillard.
unhinged and hilarious. It's amazing. Rose McGowan in this first film is also a lot of fun.
She's
And
just so these are all like these people at the beginning of the career. Like Drew Barrymore's the only one who's like she's got a name,
established.
which
Yeah.
is
Nev
clearly what I
Campbell's
mean
a
that's
new
what
learn.
happened is
Yeah.
that Drew Barrymore didn't want to be Sydney, but
Yeah.
she was willing to go to shoot for this amount of days and do it for the funsies and to lend her name and fame
Yeah.
to this project
and
he thought was
give
cool.
us like one of the most iconic horror deaths of all time. Like this
Yeah.
amazing sequence. The what's your favorite scary movie? The burnt popcorn, the stab in the chest right before the parents get home.
Skeet Ulrich. I could not remember his name for
Yes,
the
Skeet
fucking
Ulrich.
life of me. It's a weird name. You should
Yeah,
be able to
I mean,
remember
it is
that
a weird name. Both first and last, weird names. And I love that they're like kind of queer coded. Like everybody, including Sydney, is basically like, it kind of feels like our two killers have these like repressed feelings and they're kind of into each other.
one. Uh-huh.
And especially you can't convince me Matthew Lillard's character does not have a crush. Stu does not have a crush on Billy. Come on now. Stu
Stu
is
is in love with Billy.
Stu is in love with Billy, and that's all there is to it. So
That's the core reason why
he's doing what he's doing.
yeah, Billy is the sociopathic.
Yeah.
Billy is the Charles Manson, and
And Stu is the one in love with him, so he'll
Stu
go
is
along
his
with the
cult
murder.
member, his single
Yes.
cult member, doing his bidding.
And
But he doesn't have any other good reason to murder everyone. He's like,
Literally
I want
none.
to kill my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's like, your mom ruined my life and cheated with my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And then
that's
and then
that's Billy's
yeah,
reasoning,
that's
right?
Billy's reason. Yeah, Stu, yeah, is
But Stu's reasoning is I'm
girlfriend. Yeah.
friends with him
And
and
yeah,
my ex-girlfriend broke up with me. Yeah.
sad face.
It's some bullshit. He's clearly just in love with
But
Billy
he just has some great lines when he's like holding the phone, like after he's been stabbed, and he's like, "I'm getting woozy." Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's just great. The whole final sequence is fantastic. Obviously, like Gail like bullying her cameraman around in this first movie is horrible, but also great.
Gail's a fun character.
She is just such a fun character. I do love Rose McGowan's death scene because it is like nuts. Like she's trying to escape through a doggy door and gets crushed by the
Yeah.
the garage door.
I think that's one of my things with horror movies is even if the movie itself is not like particularly good, I really appreciate creative gore, creative death scenes. And that is the garage door thing is a very creative death.
You're just like, oh, okay. And Jamie Kennedy's character, the uncle, good old Uncle Randy, being our
Now
horror
uncle.
expert is great.
Yeah.
He's wonderful, particularly in this first screen, and the fact that he like works at Blockbuster,
And I'm
amazing.
pretty sure isn't he's got to be a homage to Randy from Clerks, right? Who
I'm
works
pretty
the
sure. Well, they also appear in the freaking second one. Or no, the third one. Jay and Silent Bob, sorry, appear in the third
Randall.
Scream
Yeah,
movie.
totally. It's Randall is the one who works at the video store in Clerks.
Yeah, it's a total homage to that. So it's great. It's great up and down. It's a horror classic for a reason. It respawned the genre for a reason. And crazy people like me rock our Scream shit and love Scream to death because of this OG. And it's just gonna be hard to top this ever for the franchise. It's like pretty much with most horror films. That first one usually sets such a high pinnacle that it's like, well, getting back up there's hard. They came close with the requel. The requel did a good job at recapturing so much of the greatness, but the original still stands tall for me. And Ren, obviously, because we both have it at number one.
Yeah. I also just had to like double check. I love there's just the history of these things. So the ghost face mask. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is just like a random thing they picked up. It's the same thing with the fucking Michael Myers mask. Like, so it looks like the ghost face mask was just like it was developed in 1991. It was just like part of the Fantastic Faces line. So it was just a random fucking innocuous ass face mask that they like went to the store and they were like, that one.
And now it's iconic. It has
and now it's an iconic thing.
Iconic horror.
And I love the Michael Myers mask is a William Shatner mask that they painted to be terrifying, and I love that.
I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah, William Shatner mask is like, yeah, that's like the horror lore that you just love. That's
Yes.
the William Shatner mask.
There's so much good. If you like horror lore, I highly recommend the movies that made us. They have a whole season that's majority horror movies. They're really interesting, and just horror movies are so fun too because they're always low budget. They're always, that's part of why there's so fucking many of them, is that they make decent money and they don't cost like anything most of the time.
Yeah,
Right?
they
Like
can
those
easily
paranormal
make their budget
activity.
back.
Oh my God. The paranormal activity movies look like nothing.
Nothing. And look
Yeah.
how much that first one particularly made. It was insanity.
This
But
is why the first movie we make together, Larry, will have to be a horror
it
movie.
has to
A
be.
horror comedy to be specific.
And you're already like you with your makeup skills, like you said,
Yeah. I'm ready to
horror,
make a horror film.
gore makeup. Ren says is
And
super easy.
sound design, yeah, gore is super easy. Really, it's the sheer quantity you need to have,
Yeah.
and it can be difficult to get the blood to the right like color and
Red, yeah.
consistency depending on what you want. But then, I love the Suspiria concept of just like, let's just go a little crazy and surreal with it. Yeah, I have lots of ideas for horror movies, but yeah, I do a big Halloween show for my theater company every year, specifically because I like horror things. I think it's one of the most fun things to do. I do tend to lean more into like Halloween and spooky than like genuinely terrifying, but that has more to do with the fact that like there are hard horror fans that like want their shit scared out of them, but most people, they like Halloween, they want to have fun, but they don't want to literally piss themselves. So I gotta straddle
Red.
that line there where we honor the horror legacy and
And
give you
there's
just a few little jumps.
and there's
But
a haunted house for that. Like for the people who want
yeah,
to be like
exactly. I
actually
can't
scared.
compete.
Haunted houses are
Yeah,
there.
I can't compete with the 13th floor that's got
That's right
like,
here in Denver and
yeah,
renowned.
it's
So
like clearly had millions of dollars put into it over the years. Like, no, that's good. You can have that particular demographic and make your money, and I will stand over here and throw blood at people in a version of Bruce Scary Tales. That was fun. That was fun. Actually, that was hard to sell because for some inexplicable reason, random Joe on the street doesn't want to put on a poncho and have blood flung at them for an hour or two. Weird. I don't get it.
weird. The
I
splash
thought it was
zone of
fun.
blood.
So anyway,
well, that
that's
was
our Scream ranking. Go
our
ahead.
Scream ranking, our quick thoughts on Scream 6. Tell us, do you agree with me or do you agree with Ren when it comes to Scream 3 versus Scream 6? And then do you agree with our top 4? Maybe you have Scream 6 way higher. Maybe you have Scream 3 way higher.
Maybe you're
Maybe
a
you,
lunatic that has the original somewhere
I was
not
gonna say,
in the
yeah.
top.
Maybe you have Scream not in first place. And
go ahead and explain that to us.
Yeah, leave that one down below and you'll see why we're called the Cinema Snarks. No, but we want to hear those rankings. So drop them down either below here in the comments or you can hit us up on social media, particularly me because Ren, well, she's no social media queen. I'll say that.
Because there's nothing more horrifying than a social media feed in 2023.
Well, Ren, tell us about your feeds and where people can leave terrifying things
I
for
do
you.
most oftenly, if I'm gonna be anywhere, it's on Instagram. So you can find me at RennyPoo13. You can also find me on Twitter occasionally, usually like once in a while if there's something exciting happening. But even more exciting, you can always go to the Audacious Theater Instagram or Facebook. And we always have cool, fun things going on. And so you can actually see what I do with my rest of my time. I'm either going to see movies and doing podcasts with Larry, or I'm trying to put together a play. So we're about to do a big, it's super fun. We're going to do a Clue pre-show screening thing. So I get to be Wadsworth. And we're going to be doing a little thing here in Denver at the Sci Film Center. So if you're in this area, you should totally come.
Definitely the mixture of movies and theater. Perfect.
It's so me.
And if you want to follow me, you can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Chili Boy Productions and over on Twitter at Chili Boy YT. I'm on all of them all the time. So, if you troll me, I'll be there.
He's ready. And then he'll let me know that you're trolling, and then I can
Yeah.
go and
And then I'll
troll.
send her like either the
Yeah.
link. That's usually how I get her on Twitter, is I just
Yeah.
send her a direct link to
Mhm.
something that I find interesting or crazy. And I'm like, look at this thing.
Yeah.
So we should be back shortly. Look at us, like Oscars and now
We're
Scream.
on
This
it.
is like an impromptu one. Next up, we talked about it last time. Dungeons and Dragons is around the corner. That's right up our alley. And I don't know, I'm gonna see if I can convince Ren. She seemed interested enough to go see Evil Dead Rises. Maybe we can do
Ooh,
an Evil
I would love
Dead,
that.
an
I
Evil
haven't
Dead
watched the
discussion.
third one or the
Oh,
what the heck,
well,
the
the
Army of
remake.
Darkness in a long time.
Oh,
So
okay. Did
I
you
would
watch the remake in like 2011, 2012?
probably not.
That one
Probably
is
not.
the most horror of them all so far.
Oh,
It's
well,
like
the first one's pretty horror.
I mean, there's not a lot of comedy to offset the horror in that one though. So
Yeah.
it's much more just look at this crazy shit. Which looks like Evil Dead Rises is about to be in that same vein.
Great.
It doesn't look all that pulpy. It looks a whole lot just like scary. So
I
we'll
prefer
see.
that. I prefer the Sam
Uh,
Raimi touch
yeah,
personally, but
I mean, but he's involved with all of them, and then maybe we can talk about Drag Me to Hell, which I don't love. Oops. And then a couple of the other stuff. We could just talk about Sam Raimi. It'll be good. It'll be a good time. So
talk about
just
the
make sure check.
multiverse of madness.
What is it? The great and wonder powerful Oz that he randomly directed for Disney.
I
I don't
have
know.
seen that one.
Yeah, that's Sam Raimi too. So he's done some interesting
He's
stuff.
hit or miss. He's hit or
He's hit
miss.
or miss.
He is consistently. You're going to get some amount of camp out of him, though.
Always. He
Yeah.
will deliver camp, even in when he's asked to be serious. There will be camp.
I'm never upset about camp. I'm never.
Especially, okay, let me rephrase. I'm never upset about camp with someone who just like genuinely loves it and that's their bag. Like Sam Raimi, very clearly, he is all about
I don't think
camp,
he could do
darling.
it. Not. I don't think he could avoid it if he wanted.
He doesn't know how. Like, just look at his Spider-Man films. They were like, make a serious Spider-Man film, and he's like, how about some camp though?
Oh, I miss the days of fun comic book movies.
But make sure you're
Anywho.
following us at Cinema Snarks on Instagram and Twitter so you're up to date when we are uploading our new episodes. We're back on the swing, so make sure you are following us on those platforms. Until then, we will catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.